Picture this. A 20-year-old kid is, just sitting behind a glowing laptop screen, and he starts poking around the booking system of the Ritz.
Right, like one of the most exclusive luxury hotel chains out there.
Exactly. And he actually finds this tiny, almost invisible digital crack in their armor, like a vulnerability in how they process edge case payments.
Oh, that is classic.
Yeah. So he leverages that crack, and he books himself a spectacular 4-night stay in a premium suite. And guess what he paid for the entire thing?
Let me guess, like nothing.
Close. He paid exactly 1 single cent.
Oh, wow.
And the system registered the booking as perfectly valid. So the door is open, the room service is ordered, and for a few days, this kid is living like absolute royalty.
It is, it's the ultimate digital sleight of hand. We really love stories like this because we tend to, mythologize hackers. We picture them as these untouchable masterminds.
Right, like something out of a Hollywood movie.
Exactly. But the reality of cybercrime is often much more human. I mean, the cyber genius who outsmarted a multi-million-dollar corporate security system, he didn't get caught through some sophisticated trace of his IP address. Nope. He got caught because of human nature.
Right. He just could not resist bragging about it. He posted videos of his luxury breakfast, the incredible views, on his Instagram stories.
Literally waving a giant red flag for the authorities.
Yeah, pretty much saying, here I am, come get me.
Well, he was an opportunist, right? Just a kid looking for a free ride and a bit of clout. But welcome to our deep dive, where today we are looking at a much more terrifying evolution in cybersecurity.
Yeah, the landscape has changed drastically.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today we're using this incredibly eye-opening interview with cybersecurity expert Rafa López, who goes by Cybercaptain online, to explore a world where hackers don't just want a free stay at the Ritz.
No, they want to burn the Ritz to the ground. Exactly. We are plunging into the rapidly evolving and highly destructive world of modern hacktivism. And look, whether you run a massive corporation or you own a local landscaping business or, you just use your town's municipal website to pay your water bill.
This affects you.
It really does. There is an invisible digital war happening right now, and it directly impacts the infrastructure you rely on every single day.
Yeah, and to really understand how drastic this shift is, we have to kind of move away from our hotel hacker and look at a recent operation in Spain.
Right, the one that ended with the arrest of 4 young cybercriminals.
Exactly. They belong to a group calling themselves Anonymous Fénix, which operates as a splinter faction of the famous Anonymous Collective.
Because the original collective kind of fractured years ago, didn't it?
Yeah, it broke apart into various subgroups, and each one adopted very specific ideologies and independent targets.
And the targets Anonymous Fénix chose were incredibly specific. I mean, they weren't hunting for credit card databases to sell or corporate trade secrets.
At all.
They launched relentless cyber attacks against Spanish public and governmental organizations. And according to the source material, they did this strictly because they believed the government mishandled the response to the Dana, which was this severe weather event.
Right. They were just furious. And they weaponized that fury.
Which really brings us to this concept of pure hacktivism. I mean, their motivation was entirely ideological.
Yeah, financial gain wasn't even part of the equation here. But what's fascinating here is the stark contrast between their technical capabilities and their operational security.
Oh, yeah, Lopez pointed that out.
Right. Much like our Ritz hacker, they were young and occasionally really sloppy when it came to covering their physical tracks. I mean, one of the masterminds was arrested practically down the street from Lopez's own house in Madrid.
Wait, really? Just right down the street?
Literally in his neighborhood.
Which honestly makes me wonder about the psychology at play here. Because if these kids are so incredibly skilled that they can disrupt national infrastructure, why are they throwing their lives away on these misguided ideological crusades? I mean, if they applied those tech skills in the legitimate corporate sector, they could be making an absolute fortune legally.
Oh, without a doubt. Working as top-tier security consultants.
Exactly. It just seems totally irrational to me.
Well, it seems irrational if you evaluate their actions through the lens of, traditional capitalism. But that logic simply doesn't apply to them.
Because it's an ideology.
Right. They are driven by a deeply ingrained belief system. That ideological fire is the fundamental difference between traditional cybercriminals and modern hacktivists.
Nah, because the hotel hacker just wanted a free vacation.
Yeah, and if the exploit was too difficult or if it required too much risk, he would have just stayed home and played video games.
Your juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze.
Exactly. But the hacktivist, on the other hand, genuinely believes they are punishing a corrupt system. They possess this terrifying persistence. They will keep hammering the digital walls of an organization for months on end until something finally breaks.
And we should probably clarify how they're doing that hammering.
Yeah.
Because their weapon of choice, the DDoS attack, is, I think, heavily misunderstood by a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, anyone who follows tech knows the basics of a distributed denial of service attack. It's basically a flood of traffic meant to overwhelm a server. The way I like to picture it is, imagine millions of people standing in front of a website and mashing the F5 refresh key at the exact same second.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
And they just keep doing it until the entire system collapses under the weight. But what Rafa López points out is that the disruption itself isn't always the actual endgame.
No, often a massive DDoS attack is actually being used as a smokescreen.
A smokescreen.
Yeah. And that tactic completely changes the threat model for network defenders.
How so?
Well, when a massive DDoS hits, you have thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of global volunteers and automated botnets firing requests at a target.
Right.
The target's infrastructure starts failing. But beneath the surface, that massive volume of junk traffic is doing something much more insidious. It's actually blinding the organization's intrusion detection systems.
Okay, let's unpack that mechanism a bit. How exactly does a loud, overwhelming attack blind a security system? Because I would think all those alarms going off would put the IT team on the highest possible alert.
Oh, it definitely puts them on alert. But it completely destroyed their visibility.
Maybe that makes sense for me.
Think about how a security team monitors a network. They rely on digital logs. Every time someone tries to access a server, a log entry is created.
Right.
So if someone tries to force their way in with a stolen password, the system flags it and generates an alert. But during a severe DDoS attack, the servers are generating millions of log entries per minute.
Oh, wow. So it's just noise.
Pure noise. The monitoring dashboards literally crash under the weight of the data. The security team experiences massive alert fatigue. They're running around trying to keep the front-facing website online, completely consumed by the fire in the front yard.
While the hackers are quietly slipping around to pick the lock on the back door.
Precisely. While the alarms are deafening and the logs are completely unreadable due to the sheer volume of fake traffic, the hackers execute their real objective.
Which is what?
They use that window of chaos to inject SQL code, steal administrative credentials, or, silently install malware deep within the network.
So by the time the DDoS attack actually subsides?
Yeah, by the time the IT team thinks they've survived the worst of it, the hackers have already established persistent access inside the system.
That is a brilliant and truly terrifying methodology, and it perfectly illustrates the shift Rafa López has spent years analyzing. I mean, we are dealing with highly organized alliances now.
Yeah, the scale is unprecedented.
The source material specifically highlights these heavy-hitting pro-Russian hacktivist groups, names like NoName, Zapties, UserSec, and Killnet.
Right. And these groups share a very specific ideology aligned with Russian state interests. They have been relentlessly escalating their attacks against NATO and European countries since the 2023 elections.
Which really highlights the changing nature of the targets themselves. I mean, 10 years ago, hacktivism was mostly about, website defacement.
Yeah, basically just changing the homepage of a government agency to show a political manifesto or something.
But today, these pro-Russian alliances are practically reaching out of the internet and targeting the physical world.
They are. The source notes they are actively attempting to compromise critical infrastructure.
Like the temperature control systems at water treatment facilities, or hijacking surveillance cameras in physical warehouses.
Yeah. If we compare a traditional cybercriminal to a burglar, this completely reframes the danger.
Let's hear that analogy.
Okay. So a burglar breaks into your house to steal your wallet or your jewelry. If you install a massive deadbolt and a really loud alarm system, the burglar does a quick business calculation.
Right. They see the alarm and think, not worth it.
Exactly. The risk is too high, the effort is too great, so they walk away and look for an easier target. They just want the path of least resistance to a payday.
Okay, so what is the hacktivist in this scenario?
The hacktivist is an arsonist.
An arsonist?
Yeah. They do not want your money, and they are not deterred by how difficult you make it to get inside. Their entire objective is to burn your infrastructure to the ground.
Wow.
So if you put up a deadbolt, they don't move on to an easier house. They just bring a heavier battering ram, because the destruction of your specific house is the entire point of the exercise.
Defending against someone who wants to erase you from existence requires a completely different mindset than defending against a thief.
It's night and day.
But wait, I have to challenge the internal logic of these hacktivist groups here.
Go for it.
Groups like Anonymous Fénix or these pro-Russian collectives constantly release manifestos claiming they are fighting the system. They frame themselves as digital freedom fighters taking down corrupt governments or politicians.
Right, that's their whole brand.
But if you attack a municipal water treatment facility, or if you paralyze the supply chain of a regional supermarket, you aren't hurting the politicians. You are directly attacking the very everyday citizens you claim to be fighting for.
It's a huge contradiction.
How on earth do they justify poisoning a town's water supply to make a political point?
Well, Rafa López actually confronted this exact cognitive dissonance during his interviews with these individuals.
And what did they say?
They are completely aware of the collateral damage. They see the impact on civilian life, and they simply don't care.
They just don't care at all.
Not really. They justify it in their own minds by separating the populace from the state. They tell themselves that citizens are unfortunate but necessary casualties in a larger war against a government that needs to be punished.
It's an incredibly cold rationalization. I mean, it completely dehumanizes the victims on the other side of the screen.
It does. But from a strategic standpoint, they know exactly what they are doing and why they are doing it. Striking critical infrastructure is the most efficient way to generate the massive, terrifying media impact they create.
Oh, because if they hack a minor, obscure government portal, no one writes an article about it.
Exactly. But if citizens suddenly cannot access clean water, or if municipal services completely freeze, it creates immediate, tangible panic in the real world.
And that panic forces the media to cover them.
Right? And the media coverage validates their power, it boosts their reputation on underground forums, and ultimately it attracts more volunteers and resources to their specific cause.
This actually brings us to a massive misconception that we really need to dismantle for the listener right now.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Because I can guarantee someone listening right now is thinking, okay, this is intense. Geopolitical arsonists are trying to burn down national water plants, but I don't run a government agency. I don't manage a power grid.
I just own a small e-commerce store.
Or I manage a dental clinic. I am entirely off their radar, so I don't need to worry about this.
That assumption is the single most dangerous myth in modern cybersecurity. You are absolutely not off their radar.
The source material actually drives this home with a story that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. Because it wasn't about a bank or a defense contractor. It was about a tiny, family-owned bus transportation company.
Yeah, that story was rough.
We are talking about a business with maybe 10 employees and a fleet of 5 or 6 buses. That's it. And they got hit by one of these massive ideological cyber attacks. Their entire digital ticketing system was wiped out.
And the operational reality of that attack is just devastating. Without their ticketing system, their revenue dropped to 0 overnight.
Literally 0.
Yeah, they couldn't process payments, they couldn't schedule routes, they couldn't operate. And a 10-person family business doesn't have a massive cash reserve to weather a prolonged outage like that.
So they were pushed to the absolute verge of bankruptcy in a matter of days.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, because this wasn't a traditional ransomware attack, meaning the hackers didn't want money to unlock the system, they just wanted to break it.
The family had no recourse.
None. Rafa López shared that the owners of this little bus company literally had to track down the attackers on underground forums and beg them to stop.
That is heartbreaking.
They had to plead with an anonymous syndicate, explaining they were just a small family trying to put food on the table just to get their livelihood back.
And that heartbreak highlights the core truth of modern hacktivism, doesn't it? It is entirely a numbers game.
100%. These groups are trying to build a resume of destruction. If a collective launches 100 attacks across the globe and 33 of them successfully take down a target, they go back to their forums and brag about a 33% success rate.
Right. The percentage is all that matters.
They do not care if those 33 victims were top-tier government agencies or tiny corner bakeries. A win is a win on their scoreboard.
So your small business isn't safe because it's small. It's actually vulnerable because it's a statistically easy tally mark for their ego. Which begs the question of survival. I mean, if an army of highly motivated ideological arsonists is constantly scanning the internet for easy tally marks, how does an organization, especially a small business, without infinite resources, actually defend against a siege of this magnitude?
Well, the defense strategy has to start with the foundational rule of cybersecurity. You cannot protect what you do not know you have.
Okay, fair point.
And this is where the concept of shadow IT becomes the primary threat vector.
Shadow IT. I hear this term thrown around, but what does it actually mean?
Shadow IT refers to all the hidden, forgotten, or completely unmonitored technology assets lurking within an organization's network.
Wait, how does an IT department just forget they have technology connected to the internet? Don't companies run audits? Don't they have, like, spreadsheets mapping out their networks?
In a perfect world, sure. But in the real world of corporate operations, networks are incredibly messy.
I can imagine.
Think about it. A marketing team might purchase a cloud-based collaboration tool on a corporate credit card without ever telling the IT department.
Oh, that definitely happens all the time.
Or think about legacy systems. Like 5 years ago, a facility manager might have set up a security camera in a warehouse to monitor inventory. They connect it to the public internet, and then they leave the company.
And that camera's just sitting there.
Still sitting there, running outdated firmware, completely unmonitored by the current IT staff. Or perhaps an external vendor was granted a remote access VPN for a 2-week maintenance project, and nobody ever remembered to close the port when the project ended.
So it's the digital equivalent of moving into a new house and not realizing the previous owner left a basement window wide open.
That's a great way to put it. If a company's leadership doesn't even know they have an unsecured remote access portal exposed to the web, they're essentially handing the keys to the hackers.
Okay, so step 1. Conduct a ruthless internal discovery. Map every single device, every IP address, every cloud application that touches the network.
Yes, because if you skip that step, you have already lost the battle before the attackers even deploy their botnets.
Okay, let's say a business does the audit. They map their assets. They lock all those forgotten basement windows. Now what?
Now you need active defenses.
Because if they are facing a massive DDoS attack backed by global botnets, a simple router firewall isn't going to cut it, right? But that 10-person bus company definitely doesn't have $1 million enterprise IT budget.
The good news is that the cybersecurity industry is adapting to this new reality. You really do not need $1 million budget anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Once the perimeter is mapped, the next crucial defenses are a web application firewall or a WAF and robust anti-DDoS systems. Now, historically, those were exclusively enterprise-tier solutions.
Very expensive.
Very. But today, the source notes that there are incredibly powerful cloud-based WAF solutions available, and some of them are remarkably low cost or even free at their base tiers.
So the technology itself is becoming democratized, but a web application firewall isn't just a simple on and off switch, is it? How does a WAF actually stop a sophisticated attack without accidentally blocking legitimate customers?
Good question. A WAF works by analyzing the behavioral fingerprint of incoming traffic. It doesn't just look at where the traffic is coming from. It looks at what the traffic is trying to do.
Okay.
So if 100 requests come in trying to access the login page, the Wave analyzes the timing, the browser headers, the patterns of the requests. If it determines those requests match the behavioral fingerprint of a malicious botnet trying to inject SQL code, it just drops the traffic before it ever reaches a server.
But that brings up the real hurdle, doesn't it? If the WAF is analyzing behavior, someone has to teach it the difference between a malicious bot and a real customer trying to buy a bus ticket.
Yes, exactly.
It feels like owning a high-end soundboard at a concert. The equipment might be highly capable, but if you don't have an audio engineer who knows how to tune the specific frequencies, you're just going to deafen the entire audience with feedback.
That is the perfect analogy. The technology is essentially useless without the tuning. You can have a state-of-the-art firewall, but when an attacker mutates their tactics in real time, the rules of the Wave have to be adjusted on the fly.
And a 10-person bus company doesn't have an audio engineer for their digital soundboard.
No, they don't have a dedicated security analyst monitoring traffic at 3:00 a.m.
Which means they are still incredibly vulnerable, even with the right tools. So what is the actual solution for the millions of small to medium businesses out there?
The solution the industry is aggressively moving toward is called Web Protection as a Service.
Web Protection as a Service?
Yeah. Instead of a small business buying a complex security appliance and hoping they configure it correctly, they essentially subscribe to the expertise.
Oh, I see.
They route their web traffic through a specialized cloud provider. That provider has the massive infrastructure to absorb a DDoS attack, and more importantly, they have the human analysts working 204/7 to tune the WAF rules.
It takes the burden of active combat off the shoulders of the small business owner.
Right, and places it in the hands of dedicated specialists.
It really levels the playing field. It allows a small regional clinic to have the same defensive posture and active threat tuning as a Fortune 500 company.
It's the only way forward, honestly.
Well, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today. We started by looking at a 20-year-old kid looking for a luxury vacation, a classic opportunist relying on simple vulnerabilities, and a really inflated ego.
And a very public Instagram account.
Seriously. But then we pulled back the curtain to reveal the true threat landscape that Rafa López is warning us about. Global syndicates of highly motivated ideological hackers. Groups who aren't looking to steal your wallet, but are intent on burning down the digital infrastructure of modern society.
Yeah, we examined how they weaponize DDoS attacks, not just for the chaos, but as sophisticated smokescreens to blind security teams while they break down the back doors of critical infrastructure.
And perhaps most importantly, we expose the myth of being too small to target. From a national water treatment plant to a family bus company, every single unsecured network is a valid target in their quest for reputation and disruption.
Which means everyone has to actively lock their digital doors.
It's time to take a hard, honest look at your own digital footprint. Whether you are managing a corporate network or just setting up smart devices in your home, you have to ask yourself, what does my shadow IT look like?
Yeah. Do you have an old smart thermostat you haven't updated in 3 years?
Or a forgotten remote access portal at your office? You cannot protect the castle if you don't know where all the windows are.
It demands a fundamental shift in how we approach our connectivity. Participating in the digital world is no longer a passive experience. It requires continuous, active awareness and maintenance.
And that leads me to a final thought I want you to mull over. We've established that these ideological hacktivists are perfectly willing to bankrupt a small family business just to bump up their success metrics on an underground forum.
Right.
They operate with total disregard for the everyday citizens caught in the crossfire. So if that is the reality, are we entering an era where the concept of neutrality on the internet simply no longer exists?
That's a chilling thought.
Are we living in a world where simply connecting a business or even a home to the global internet means you are automatically drafted into a cyber war you never signed up for?
Well, the battlefield has entirely decentralized. It isn't happening on a distant shore. It's happening at the router in your living room and on the servers holding your livelihood.
Keep that in mind the next time you plug a new convenient device into your network. Because out there, someone isn't just looking for a free night at the Ritz. They are looking for a spark to light the match. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.